Hi everybody, my name is Spike Brave, and in this tutorial I'd like to show you how to use the Mech Stats feature that's available in MechWarrior Online. Now you'll encounter this feature several places in the UI, most notably in the Select Mech screen, the Loadout screen, and the store. It functions the same way in all those places with a slight change in the store, and we'll show you that when we get to that particular section. So let's start talking about what we have in our Mech Stats panel window. So right here we see the panel window. Right here's this icon that lets us expand it for more details, and as we go through it, we'll expand it and we'll show you those details in a moment. The first thing we see here is the strip mech button. This is very useful when you're loading out your BattleMech. It'll let you strip your BattleMech by section. So I can say strip all my equipment, I can strip all my modules, all my armor, or all my cockpit items. So let's try that out. So if we hit strip all equipment and say OK, we'll see that all the equipment was removed from this BattleMech. So let's go back out there. We can see I could strip all my armor and say OK, and we'll see all of my armor comes off. And of course we could just cancel out if we decided we didn't want to strip anything. Now the next feature that's very nice in these buttons is the reset mech button. This lets us go back to the last time we saved our BattleMech. So if I hit reset now, we'll see that all of my equipment and armor comes back after I accept the prompt and this pop-up. So there we go, back to where I was. Now keep in mind, what we'll do is we'll strip out our equipment again, and we'll see that this yellow save button comes up. We'll talk more about how to load out your BattleMech in a separate tutorial. But when you're done changing a lot, if you hit save, if I were to hit save right now, my reset mech button would just take me back to an empty BattleMech. So keep that in mind. It's the last time you click this yellow save button is when it'll take you back to the state the mech was in at that time. So let's go ahead and reset back to where we were, and then let's talk about what changes when we're in the store. Really the only change we see in the store is if we come out here real fast, we'll say BattleMechs, we'll pick a light, we'll pick our adder, and we'll click on that, and we'll see that we have the Mech Stats. And the only thing that's different is those two buttons have been replaced with this view in Mechlab. If I click on this, it takes me back out to the Mechlab with a little notice that says if I edit anything, I have to purchase it before I can save those changes, and just hit OK and clear out of that. But then we see the Mech Stat button goes back to exactly how it was before. So let's go back out to the Mechlab and in our loadout for our Raven again, and let's talk about the details that are available. First of all is the tonnage. This is how much the BattleMech weighs. The first number is the current weight of the BattleMech, and the last number is how much the BattleMech can weigh. So my Raven can weigh up to 35 tons, and I have 35 tons of stuff equipped on him. Now I do recommend that you get as close as possible to the maximum tonnage available for your BattleMech. If you leave tonnage available in the Mechlab, you're not taking stuff you could be taking into battle with you, so keep that in mind. Now you may end up with cases because of the way that armor is handled, and again we'll cover armor in the loadout section, but because armor is allocated per point and each point has a weight, sometimes you'll come out with a BattleMech that weighs like, let's say 34.9 tons, and you feel the armor protection is worth losing that tenth of a ton, and that's okay. So the next thing we have is slots. Now each piece of equipment takes up a certain number of slots, so you can see that I have two empty slots on my leg. My Guardian ECM here takes up 2 slots. We'll cover that a little bit more in detail once we get into the loadout section, but for right now all we need to know is that equipment takes up slots, and our BattleMech has a total of 78 slots available, and this number on the left here lets me know how many I've used, so I've used 73. That's all there is for the slots. Now armor. Protection for your BattleMech. This BattleMech can carry a maximum of 238, and I have equipped 232. I would recommend, if you are a new player, that you keep your armor as close to maximum as possible. This will allow your BattleMech to take more damage. Now there are some builds that sacrifice some armor for gains in maneuverability or weapons loadout, so it is something you can experiment with, but if you're new and coming here to learn how to deal with your BattleMech, I would recommend carrying full armor as close to full as you can get while staying within your tonnage limits to offer you as much protection as possible. The next thing we see is heat management, and this is how good our BattleMech is at dealing with the heat from its weapons fire. So if your heat management is 2, that means you can fire all your weapons at one time and not have to worry about anything. And then as that number gets lower, it gets harder and harder to alpha strike. I recommend for newer players that you try to maintain a heat management of around 0.5 or 0.4. Now, as you can see, this is a light BattleMech, and I have a slightly higher heat management. I find that light BattleMechs with their lighter weaponry need to be able to fire their weapons more often. So for my lights, I like it a little bit higher, 1.6 or 1.7. Now my assault mechs that carry a big punch that can kill somebody in one hit, sometimes I'll go all the way down to 1.3 to get that big alpha strike to kill something. So there is a little bit of room, but if you're new and just experimenting, I'd recommend that 1.5 as a goal to get you used to the game. Alrighty, the next thing that we see is our heat sinks. I have double heat sinks, so you see the DBL. If I had standard heat sinks, it would just say heat sinks. 10 heat sinks come with your engine, and that's the number here, 10 in parentheses. And then you can also equip additional heat sinks. You can see I have 2 more equipped. I have 1 in my engine slot and 1 in my right torso. So I have a total of 12 heat sinks. We'll talk a little bit more about how heat sinks and engines interact in a future video, but for now, this is just a note to show you that this particular bit of information tells you how many heat sinks you have. The next thing we see is our firepower. So mine is 15 out of 250. So that 15 is how much damage I can generate in one alpha strike. So if I fire all my guns at once in this BattleMech, I will do 15 points of damage. Now this one is not a goal to reach. Don't try to get 250 points of damage on a single alpha strike in your mech. I can't figure out how to do it. It's a theoretical maximum, so there could be a way to do it, but I'm not aware of what it is. But I almost guarantee you that if you could figure out how to pack 250 points of damage into an alpha strike, you're not going to have any armor, you're not going to be able to move, so those would be huge problems, and also the heat will probably kill you from overheating. So this isn't a goal to reach, just please keep that in mind. This just lets you know how big your alpha strike is. The next thing we see is our speed. This is how fast our BattleMech can move. The first number, in my case, the 146.8, is how fast I can run forward. The second number, the 97.8, is how fast I can go backwards. That's determined by your engine rating, and we'll talk again about engine ratings and how they interact with the BattleMech a little bit more in the loadout tutorials, and a little bit more in this tutorial too, because it does affect your mech in some other ways. So if you're curious about those engines and want to know more, look for the engine section of the tutorials. But for right now, this just lets you know how fast your BattleMech can move. Now the next number, which in my case is not applicable, is how far my BattleMech can jump in meters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out to my select mech real quick, and we'll show you a spider BattleMech, and this BattleMech can jump. And actually, let's stay out here in the select mech screen, because as I said, this stays the same. So as you can see, my jump distance, I can jump a maximum of 52 meters here on the right, and I have enough jump jets that allow me to jump those 52 meters. Now as you add and remove jump jets, you'll see this first number change. So you can go all the way up to the maximum, or you can go all the way down to 0. Just because the mech is jump capable does not mean you need to put jump jets on it. And then the final thing we see here is our engine rating. This lets us know which engine we have equipped. In the BattleMech, in this case, on this spider, I have a 265 XL. Let's come back up to the Raven and go back up to Loadout, and we'll discuss the next section. The next thing that we see are some tabs that indicate the special equipment this BattleMech can have. I chose the Raven for this video because he has all but one. He has AMS, which is anti-missile system. So right here we see this green icon, and we'll talk more about hardpoints in our loadout, but that lets me equip an AMS if I choose. Now we can see that it says AMS, so I can put an anti-missile system on, but this red triangle, or perhaps orange, depending on how you perceive that color, lets me know that I did not choose to equip it on this BattleMech. The next thing we see is the Artemis fire control system. These help out my missiles. Again, red, so not equipped. I can put an active probe on this mech. I chose not to. Red, not equipped. And then this next one is electronic countermeasures. There's a special hardpoint for that. We can see that right here. And I did choose to equip it on this BattleMech, so that little triangle is green. Now the fifth thing that we could have is called mask, and that lets our BattleMech run faster for brief periods of time. And let's go to our select mech, and we'll switch to our clan mechs briefly. Go to our mediums and go to our shadow cats, and we'll click on him, and we'll see that he has the mask and it is equipped. Now you'll notice that the AMS went away because he doesn't have a hardpoint for that. So that's what these 5 icons are, is they let you know if you have special equipment and what special equipment can be mounted on this BattleMech. Again, we'll cover that in more detail in the loadout, but this is just to give you information about the information that can be displayed here. So let's go back to our Raven. So we'll select our Inner Sphere Max, click on our Raven, go back to our loadout, and what we'll do is we'll use our icon that I showed at the beginning of the video to expand this to get some more details. Alrighty. So the first thing that we see is the Hardpoints. This gives us a paper doll and some information about the hardpoints of our BattleMech. So across the top here we see all the different types of hardpoint. Ballistic is purple, energy is yellow. Missiles are kind of a darker green. AMS is a lighter green. I don't think this is great. You have two greens conveying meaning. Can be a little confusing. And then finally we have this orange color that represents ECM. So that lets us know how many hardpoints we have. So 0 ballistic, 3 energy, 2 missile, 1 AMS, 1 ECM. And then directly underneath that we have a paper doll that shows us where all those hardpoints are located. So we can see 2 energy in the right arm, 1 missile in the left arm, and so on and so forth. Now what we can do is we can click on this paper doll for further information about our BattleMech's loadout. So if I click on the arm here, or actually we don't need to click, we just need to mouse over, it lets us know what's in there. So I have a shoulder and upper arm actuator in this particular section of my BattleMech. So let's go to something a little bit more interesting, and we'll pick that left torso. Lets me know I have a Guardian ECM equipped there. Let's go ahead and look at our other arm. We'll see that I have a shoulder, upper arm actuator, and 2 medium lasers. So this lets you quickly look at your BattleMech and see what's loaded out where if you were in somewhere, let's say the select mech screen, so you would have to come out to the loadout screen to see that. And then finally in the hardpoint section, we have a list of what we have equipped on the BattleMech. So I have 3 medium lasers and 1 NARC missile beacon. The other thing we can do is roll up this panel, and we'll do that to continue talking about the next one. The next panel is simply what modules we have equipped on our BattleMech. An improved artillery strike and an improved UAV in this case. That's all there is to it. If you have modules, you see them. If you don't, this will be empty. So we'll roll that up, and then we'll talk about quirks. Quirks are bonuses added to a BattleMech's chassis to give it better staying power on the battlefield. They went through and decided to balance all the mechs against each other, and if the mech was underperforming, they added some quirks to help it out so it could perform on equal footing with all the other BattleMechs. These are all pretty straightforward. We'll see that this one has a lot, so let's talk about a few of them. We have a structure bonus in our left leg of +8, so that means once I lose my armor, my legs are a little bit tougher to destroy, and we'll see that we have structure bonus right leg as well, both +8. So they can take 8 more points of damage than a 35-ton mech normally could. The next thing we see are some stuff that affects our weapon. So we have laser duration, and that's -5%. So the time it takes my lasers to fire, so for the full burn of the beam, is 5% less. Now when you're reading these quirks, if it doesn't say anything specific, it means it applies to everything. So in this case, laser duration. That means any laser, medium lasers, large lasers, pulse lasers, whatever. In some cases you'll see it apply to a specific weapon like medium pulse laser. In that case only the medium pulse laser would get it, but in this case all lasers get it. Same thing with the missile velocity. My missiles shoot 10% faster in this BattleMech when they're going downfield. So that's what velocity means, is when it leaves your BattleMech. So downrange. My missiles are 10% faster when they go downrange. All of my missiles. This could say SRMs, it could say LRMs, it could say LRM-5s. But it doesn't, so all missiles. And then we see one that is specific to a weapon. The NARC missile beacon range is +100. So +100 meters, I'm assuming. Maybe that should say percent. I'm not sure. Could be just a little typo. You will see typos in the UI occasionally. And then we see that the NARC duration also has an increase of +15, and I'm assuming it's +15 seconds. So keep that in mind. In these cases, NARCs are missile systems, so they do get the velocity and the cooldown bonus, but they get these additionally. But if I put an SRM-6 on here, it wouldn't get anything related to the NARC, just the missile cooldowns. Something I do want to point out for newer players is that when you're looking at your quirks, ballistic velocity applies to what a PPC shoots. So if you're looking at PPC as a weapon, it does get the ballistic velocity quirk. So keep that in mind, that the game tracks whatever the PPC shoots that's going down range as ballistic. So ballistic velocity applies to PPCs. Just an interesting side note that I think is useful for newer players to know, that your ballistic quirks do apply to your PPCs. That's really all there is to quirks. They're pretty straightforward. We'll close that up and then we'll talk about our cockpit items. This lets us know what we have mounted on the cockpit. So I have items mounted in all 3 slots, standing, hanging, and mounted. If you'd like to know more about cockpit items, check out my tutorial there. They're just things that you can see in your cockpit as you're piloting your BattleMech. They have no effect on gameplay other than the war horns that you can put in your cockpit do play a sound on kill. Doesn't really impact gameplay, but it has to do with gameplay because of the kill mechanic. But doesn't really help you out any. These are just cosmetic items to add some immersion to your cockpit. So we'll close that one up, and then finally we'll talk about the graphs. These are pretty straightforward. We have a graph that shows our accelerators in meters per second squared, how many degrees per second we can turn, and of course our deceleration in meters per second. We see a nice little graph that shows us all that information. Pretty straightforward. Right underneath that we have a couple pictures of a BattleMech that let us know how it can pitch. So here's our pitch. We can see that we have the circle here that lets us know how far we can pitch. So yellow is kind of the resting area here. This white is where my torso pitch ends, and this lighter white, perhaps off gray color here, this last little section, is how far my arms can pitch up and down. So this darker white section here, sounds a little odd to say, is how far my torso can pitch, and this is how far my arms can pitch. And we can see that it's 21 degrees base plus 30 for my particular chassis. So that lets me know that it's a total of 51 degrees we can, or 21 for my torso, I shouldn't have said chassis, and then plus another 30 for my arms pitching around. Apologize for the misspeak there. And then we can see our pitch speed. So the torso is 100 degrees per second and the arms is 398 degrees per second. And that's how fast we can pitch. And then we have our yaw. So this is turning our BattleMech side to side. Now we can see that we have this big yellow line that indicates my yaw for my torso. This particular BattleMech does not have lower arm actuator, so it can't do anything with its arms. So we can see that this BattleMech can pitch a ton. Almost look right behind itself. So, and then we see the same data here. We have our torso, yaw speed of 177 degrees per second, and our arm yaw speed of 398. I don't know why I can't see 398. I apologize. Degrees per second. Let's go look at our spider real quick again. And we'll open up his Mech Stats. And we'll see here that he's got these little orange indicators that show that this is how far he can pitch his arms over too. So I can turn my torso this far, and that's how far my torso will go, and then my arms will pitch this much more, so I can move my arms over a little bit too. So that's how you read those, and we'll come back out to our Raven to show you the last little piece here. This is affected by your engine. So we'll open that up again, and we'll put a different engine in the BattleMech. Now, of course, what we'll see is that my speed will change. So what I'll do is I'll put a 255 rated standard engine in there. And we'll see that my acceleration and deceleration went down quite a bit. But it does also affect how fast you can pitch and yaw your mech. We can see that it went down to 76 degrees per second on the torso and 304 degrees per second for our arms. And then again on the yaw, went down again to 135 and 304. So let's go ahead and reset our mech, and we'll see those numbers go back up to where they were initially. So we'll revert our changes, and we'll see it went back up to 177 and 100 degrees per second. So keep in mind that that engine rating does affect how fast you can pitch and yaw your BattleMech. Well, This has been a look at all the information that's available in the Mech Stats section of the UI. I hope you found the video useful. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or perhaps I didn't cover something you'd like to know about the Mech Stats feature, please leave me a note in the comments below. And as always, have great luck on the battlefield, and I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.